Hello. Whoops. Hello. We're on Psalm 10 today. Now, what a psalm! I was reading it, going, "Whoa! We need to think of some of this stuff about some of this stuff a little bit, and understand a little bit of where the writer's coming from and what he's saying, because like the whole thing is, Lord, you're a million miles away when my enemies are against me, and it sort of tips to a little bit of, well, I know you're not really that far away, but you're watching them, and then isn't it time for justice? Almost the tone of it is, Lord, you could obliterate my enemies, you could kill them off, and then I'd have space. And then a few reminders of the way they're behaving, and what they're saying, the lies, the threats, everything else. And you've got this whole thing going on. Then sort of a reminder, this like, Lord, you haven't forgotten us, have you? So I'm just adjusting my Bible here. I put it in the wrong place. There you are. It's, you haven't forgotten us. It's time that you crushed them forever. Don't forget us. We're helpless and we're subject to all their, for a better word, bad behaviour, and they treat us with contempt. And Lord, it's time for you to punish them for everything they've done, for all the evil they've done. And the psalm finishes off. It's like, what is this? Psalm finishes off. This, it says, "You, Lord," this is the Passion Translation, "a king forever and ever. You will see to it that all the nations perish in your hands. Lord, you know and understand all the hopes of the humble, and you hear their cries and the comfort of their hearts, helping them all. The orphans and oppressed will be terrified no longer, for you will bring them justice and no one will trouble them." And it's like, yeah, I'm reading this and I'm like, it doesn't feel very Christian-like, some of the prayers. And so what I just want to do, just to get us considering this for a moment, is to understand, if you like, the culture, the environment they were in, and we have touched on this before. And then out of that, let's have a look at the New Testament, because I think there's quite a shift that goes on in the New Testament. And the key thing, and as I say, we've mentioned this before, but the key thing in the Old Testament is this whole idea around the law, that if you obey the law, you'll be blessed. And if you disobey the law, then you'll be cursed. It was that sort of very stark lines. And under the blessing, under the law, it says that if you're obeying God and His blessings on you, if your enemies come at you in one direction, they'll scatter you in seven. It's like this whole sense of obedience to God meant safety, peace, that you'd occupy the land that you were given to occupy. And that's what was going on. And the reverse of it was, if you aren't living correctly, then your enemies would have a right to come in against you, and they would steal the land off you and terrorize you and all these things. So when you've got that culture, you can imagine that David here, I'm assuming it's David that's written it, but he's in a place probably where he's thinking, well, I'm doing my best to obey God, but my enemies are still coming against me. And it creates this internal tension, and there's that sense of, Lord, have you forgotten us? But then there's also a knowing of God saying, well, I know you haven't forgotten us. Then he's saying, Lord, deal with these enemies really according to the word, to the blessing that you've spoken. And then I'd almost say he's getting a little bit mad, and he's like, really deal with them, really judge them, really sort them out. So that's the picture, if you like. That's the cry, as it says in the Passion Translation, the cry of the oppressed. And so what I want to do now is look at this and reshape it a little bit according to the New Testament for us, because that idea that we basically pray that God kills our enemies doesn't line up in the New Testament. So there's a new way that emerges in the New Testament, a new way of being, a new way of living, and a new way of praying that comes through the new covenant that Jesus brought for us. So I want us a little bit park this psalm, and rather than take it on board and go, okay, I got a few people who've been nasty to me, fire and brimstones. You come to the New Testament, the disciples were a bit like that. If anyone stood against Jesus, they stood up and they were like, Lord, call down fire on heaven. It's like this judgment. And Jesus said, it doesn't work like that. It's not New Testament, it's not New Covenant. And so Jesus didn't tend to worry about those that were against him. They were all over the place. His focus was different. And then Jesus made statements like, don't just call judgment on your enemies. It's like, love your enemies and pray for them. And so this culture change that has come from the New Testament is key for us. It's key that we get an understanding in our attitude that when there's people that might be speaking against us, how do we deal with that? Now, the Old Testament way would be, Lord, sort them out. I remember watching one Sunday where someone I thought God should sort out, and the sense of conviction I had when I was like, I'm sure I've just seen an angel. And when I say that, it was an impression of an angel come and give them a hug. And I was like, that's not right. There's stuff going on. I know it's going on that they need to deal with. And their testimony later on was how they felt like an angel had come and given them a hug, and it had done something in their hearts. It had melted their hearts. And you realise, actually, my way of dealing with things, my approach to things was so foreign to God's way. So how should we be if someone does things against us? We should pray for them. We should check our hearts, that our hearts don't get full of bitterness, anguish, and all those sorts of things, that we have a clear place and space that we can step forward with God, that those things don't become blockages, that even in difficult circumstances we find the good in the situation, we find the good in that person. And so here's where I want us to land there. Are there people where you've got grievances and aggravation in your heart? Then God's way of dealing with it isn't, Lord, bring them down, Lord, sort them out, Lord, show them I'm right. It's actually, Father, I bless this person. Father, I release them. Father, where my heart is tied up with them because of my attitudes, Father, forgive me. Help me to see how Jesus forgave. Now, he was the ultimate demonstration of forgiveness, and help me be more like him in my day-to-day life. So, maybe there's some things you need to and want to go away and pray, but the cry of the oppressed, as it's titled in this psalm in the Old Testament, there's some adjustments that we need to make, that we're not tied with that, but actually we're grabbing God's way of, we're grabbing God's way of doing things through Christ and not according to an old covenant. Bless you. Sorry about that. I'm going to wipe my nose partway through that, but I'm not editing it out. So have a great day. Thank you for being with me, and let's see what Psalm 11 brings in the Passion Translation. It's called the Song of the Steadfast. That sounds good, doesn't it? Bless you. Have a good day. Bye for now.